scheduling is off. I don't know why. I pray that this works like I expected it to. Golly, if it doesn't, I wouldn't be mad. Like I expected it to. All right, I think it's working. Hallelujah. Woo! All right, at least I was able to get in. Yeah, I don't know why. The schedule was off. I'm not sure why. And hopefully I just hit add. Beautiful. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Woo! For some reason, the schedule was off for some reason. I'm not sure why. But hey,
mine had 1 minute to 8. So
yeah. No, I mean, when I had the thing in typed, it said 12 or I don't know. But anyway, we got it. Welcome to Common Mansplaining. Welcome back to the show. I think we got like 3 people here, 4 people here. Tanya's here, Matt's here. Welcome back, guys. Today we got a juicy one. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Immigration, first and foremost, for like the 95th time this year. Oh my God! Ladies and gentlemen, we got our first super chat. Thank you so much, Matt. That's my brother, by the way. So he's like, this is charity. I'll take it. Woo! Back to hockey. Yeah. You don't have to worry about anything else, Matt. Guys, so just quick aside, now that you've seen it, anybody that wants to super chat, I will immediately redirect my attention to whatever you want me to address. You can attach a question to it or a comment. We can talk about whatever you want for the most part. But yeah, so immigration. I'm excited. Let's start at the top, right? The tippy top, right? The first thing that needs to be said about immigration is that America is an awesome nation, right? Like, we're the best nation on earth. And I truly believe that. Like, in many different metrics, like quality of life. It's amazing to me always how many people say things like, oh, well, Sweden and Denmark do this better, or this, like I'll hear so many different examples and I'm like, all right, we'll go move over there. And they're like, nah. It's like, yeah, that's what I thought. Because we are the best, right? Nobody wants to leave America. And the reason that we're the best isn't because of, like whether or not we have a free healthcare system, right? The reason we're the best is because we have individual freedoms, because we have our individual freedoms and our individual liberties protected. That's why America is the best. Now, because America is the best, everybody wants to be here. That's how immigration, that's how it starts, right? Like, if you look around the world, there are many countries that people are coming to. There are many countries that people are leaving, right? It's a safe bet. Not that, I'm not saying this in a racial context, but it's a safe bet that the structure of the nation that people are going to is probably stronger in some regard than the structures of the nations that people are leaving. Right?
Well, I mean, yeah. Even when they criticize our politics or some recent policy or something about America, right? So many people have had the experience of being overseas, being discovered as an American, somebody just railing on them, oh, you American, and venting, and they'd be like, hey, would you be willing to write a letter of recommendation for my visa application? Because like the next breath, they still want to move here.
Right, of course. And I got people maybe don't know this, but my business is international. So I have hundreds of people in different nations that all talk to me and all do business with me on a daily basis. And a lot of them are like, hey man, can you sponsor me? Can you get me in the nation? And it's like a lot of them are doing that. And for the most part, these guys are not the kind of people that I would want to put my name on. Not that they'd be a problem. Some of them would be just fine. But I'm just, there's a difference between like somebody being okay and me putting my finger on it. That's two different things.
Absolutely.
Now, there's a lot of different ways to come into the nation, right? There's a lot of different structures of visa. One way to do it is kind of like a temp visa. Like you're not trying to be in America. You're just trying to visit, like you're vacationing or something, right?
Tourism.
Yeah. Right. That's a common one. Of course, it's abused, right? People will use that one to come here and then forget that they were supposed to go back, right? Like I would do if I was in Aruba, right? But there are also more permanent visas. Now, one thing that's important to note, right? One thing that you'll hear all the time when you talk about immigration is people will say this is a land of immigrants. Now, it is. It is a land of immigrants, but even more so, it is a land of settlers. And I don't know if people really understand the difference between those two things, right? Because the initial like foray into a new land where you are facing outrageous amounts of like natural oppression from the surroundings, like harsh winters. You have to be able to establish yourself in a new environment. You have to be able to find out how to get food, how to take care of yourself, how to protect yourself against animals, wildlife, and of course the natives that are already here, right? And these are things that like no other immigrant really had to deal with, right? People act like it's hard for immigrants, and it was. It was very hard for immigrants. But anything that an immigrant faced, a settler probably faced times like 10, right? It's like so many of these settlements that started in America were like, they come over and then just die out. And then somebody else would try a new one, and they'd come over and they'd die out. And then, like, half the time it was like, all right, we're going to send this group of people over, and all that they're actually going to get established is they're going to like cut 8 trees down, make a little circle in the ground, and like hopefully they have like a fishing zone and we know where they're going to fish. And then after they die out, we'll send another group of people and they'll figure it out. Like they'll have all this stuff kind of set up.
Yeah, the contempt for the early settlers was breathtaking. But they really thought that they could, their lives were really, basically not worth anything. And they would then come in after and use the knowledge they gained to, set up real civilization.
Right. Now, the next step to this is when the nation was being formed, right? There were lots of different points in times where taking on immigrants was more and less beneficial to the nation, right? Like when we were first being formed and we wanted to forge a new nation, it was very, very beneficial. There's plenty of space, plenty of resources, plenty of everything. And we're like, someone wants to come over, like, sure, come on, like it doesn't matter, right? And half of the people that were here that were encouraging it were landowners. They were just gonna use those people to get rich off of, so they were happy to bring in more people, right? As opposed to now, for example, we have plenty of people here, and there is no particular reason for us to need more people. Now that I want to be clear, I'm not saying that I don't want immigrants. I like immigrants. Matter of fact, I'm a big proponent of immigrants. I think that immigrants are a boon to our nation. If they come over legally, and they do what they're supposed to do, to follow all the correct procedures and are not a drain on the system in any way. Like they don't they don't come over here with the expectation of using like Medicaid and going to emergency rooms for free and stuff like that. Like as long as they're coming over here to work, to be part of the community, to be part of America, I love that. Like that's a huge positive. But understand that there's a difference between wanting something and needing something. America doesn't need immigrants, right? I like immigrants, but we don't need them, right? And there's a difference between 200 years ago.
Well, and there's also, I want to point out in this, like I grew up in California, border state, and went to church went to school with tons of recent immigrants, and not just from Mexico or Central America. People from all over the world right? I had Kuwaiti refugees from the Kuwaiti War that I went to school with. Refugees from Armenia, right? From the atrocities in Armenia, large Armenian population. Cambodian refugees from the atrocities in Cambodia, right? All these, so, and I went to church and I saw the humanity in these people, and, we had common things and we worshiped together, we went to school together, we played together. But there's also a point of where there's too many than we can handle at a time, right? The facilities, the what a community can absorb in a given time period is finite, right? And so there's a thing of welcoming these people, but you being overwhelmed and saying, all right, we need to just give us some time to get these people settled before we get waves of more.
Exactly. Yeah, right. So two huge things that you just brought up. Like number one is there is a limit, right? Like a lot of people that are in favor of immigration, like is particularly on the left, right? But there's plenty on the right that are in favor of immigration too. That it's like they're in favor of any amount of immigration. And I'm like, there's got, like, are you cool with how much? What, 5 million a year, 10 million a year, 50 million a year? 300 million, like, is there any limit at all to what you're looking for? And they're like, no, sure, open borders. They just like want anybody to be anywhere. And I'm like, you just can't, like, nothing, no community on earth will be able to manage the kind of immigration that Biden was running. Like, eventually it was just going to overload the system. No matter who it is, no matter how strong they were, that's what was going to happen. And the big thing that you brought up is that it costs money, right? Immigration is not free for the people that are being immigrated to, for the country that is absorbing this group of people. It is not free. Now, again, that doesn't mean that it's bad, right? Like, there's a lot of things in life where you pay, right, where you invest, right? And I really do believe that immigrants are investments, right? Like, you bring them in, hopefully you assimilate them into the culture, and then you pour a little money into them to get them situated. But then after they're situated, then they're a taxpayer, they're a citizen. They're bringing revenue, they're helping the GDP of the nation. They're making, it's one of those things where it's all to the good as long as they're doing it legally. As long as they're doing it legal. I'm going to say that again because it's just so important. As long as they're doing it legally.
Right. So when they have a visa, so there's tourist visas, there's entertainment visas, like actors coming here or people coming here to just maybe do a news story. And then there's the holy grail, permanent work visas, what we call green cards, right?
Yes.
I know they're not really green anymore, but permanent residents. One of the things I think I want to talk about is that status is still a long-term probation.
Yes.
Right? That we are still, as a country, saying we are still evaluating you. And if you are not being a good resident and somebody that adds value, we can revoke that visa and you can go back to wherever you want. And one of the big things is with the Biden administration is they weren't revoking visas for anybody. And so people started feeling very entitled that they could act, not only just harbor thoughts, anti-American thoughts, but start spreading, supporting terrorism openly in the streets and spreading anti-American hate. And the new regime has said, no, actually, those are disqualifying activities. And
right.
there's anywhere in the world you can go and actively hate America, foreign soil. But here in America is not the place to do that, right? And
what drives me nuts is, like, why would you want to? I still, no matter how many times we go into this, like, I still can't get into that mindset of, like, I'm going to move to America and then hate it. Like, what? Like, are you out of your? I don't understand how the mind can work. I don't understand how those two things can go together. Yeah. But, like, it's frustrating for me.
And to be shocked, like when your student visa is said, you're unwelcome to stay in this country, and you're shocked, you're like clutching your pearls. How did you when you basically said that America as a government, as an institution, as a republic should end.
Yeah, right.
Violently, and America, and then you're shocked when it says, we would like you to not be in our country anymore.
Like, what was it? Mahmoud Khalil or whatever had that CUAD. I don't know. I don't remember what it stands for, but it was like calls for the eradication of America and the Western civilization and Israel and all. Like, I'm like, wow. Like, wow. Why? And I, of course, obviously, I'm sitting there thinking, like, why did we even give him permanent residency in the first place? And why did we? It boggles the mind. Like, I can't understand why somebody. I mean, I guess, to be fair, if I'm thinking tactically, right? Like, if I'm a terrorist, it is easier to, like, wreak havoc if I'm already in the nation that I'm trying to destroy, right?
Well, which in New York, you'll get media coverage. It will be televised.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, the revolution will be televised, right? So I guess there is that advantage, right? Like, I guess but you can't expect to stay after you've like done anything violent.
You violated your probation. I think that's the big thing, and is that this Trump administration has put back in is this probationary state. You committing crimes is the number one. You commit crimes, you join violent gangs, you commit fraud, you support terrorist organizations. We're not going to tolerate you to stay here, whether you have a legal student visa or you came in the right way. We know your name. You want to do that? Feel free to do that anywhere else.
Yeah, right. And one other thing too is like if I'm thinking about this kind of like a job, like where other probations are done, right? Like a lot of times in a job they'll have like this 90-day trial period. And one of the things, by the way, if you're in a job that ends your employment immediately, is if you lie on your application, right? Like a lot of these guys are coming over and they're like, oh yeah, we love America, everything's gorgeous, and then they come over here and they're like, we'd like to eradicate America. I'm like, wait a second, now on your application you very clearly did not say that, because obviously we would have been like, you're just not a good fit for this position, like we're going to give it to some dude in some computer software guy from India, like whatever, right? Like we're not going to give it to you because you want to kill us.
Well, yeah, and I think Indian H-1B visas are a good example of sort of the worker program working intentionally. These people are honest. They come over here, they're hardworking. They really try to get permanent visas if they can stay here. If not, when their visa runs up, they return peaceably back to their country, right? And they're not here to break laws. I mean, in large numbers, right? Any group is going to have outliers, but they're not here to impose upon us, and they want to live peacefully, and they love America, for what it is. Now, right now, there's so much. What Trump is getting, I think, a lot of flack for is because the Biden administration did nothing. He's had to catch up. Normally, if the Biden administration had just been responsible, there would be a normal amount of sort of review and process, but there's this big backlog of bad actors, and we have to work fast on that. And so normally, while the process maybe of deportation would have been a little bit more due process, or a little bit slower or more regular, this is a little bit hasty because we've got to catch up with 4 years of zero deportations.
Right. And I do get that. Now, to provide a little like counterweight to this whole thing, right? Because I realize right now there's a lot of deportations going on, and a lot of them for like a lot of different reasons too, which is kind of like it complicates it a little bit. Like we're kind of just coming in and sweeping up, like 300, 500 guys and like sending them back, but for various different reasons. Like they've each violated different laws and stuff like that, which might equal different types of due process and stuff like that. Now, I will just say for the record that I believe that if you are a permanent resident, you're entitled to the same legal protections that anybody else is legally.
Your property.
Now, there are laws on the books that override that typical protection, right? And one of them Trump has evoked, right? It's the Alien Enemies Act. And I've read it. I don't really know that I understand like the edges of it, like because all laws have that place where they're like where you're like right on the line. You don't know whether right. And terrorism is a new use of that law, right? It's definitely like this law was good to understand. So people understand this law was made back in 1798 or something like that, where people, where people like literally like stood in a line in bright colored uniforms that all matched and shot at each other from across the field. So it was like very easy to figure out whether or not somebody was on your team or not, right? Like they had their jerseys on, they were wearing numbers and stuff like that. Like it was that.
I want to push back a little bit because there was still tension with British, right? The British were enforcing our citizens to work on their boats, right? Essentially slavery and things like that, and trade issue, right? We had the War of 1812, right, with the British, right? And so British sympathizers were a problem. And most of them they ended up being violently ousted and sent to Canada or back to Britain. This was a period of time where British Tories, those who had supported the British during the Revolutionary War,
Right.
we don't really talk about it in our history very much because it's
Right.
essentially a dark period.
Yeah.
But people who lived here, it was like, look, you supported the British, and if things are good with the British, that'd be fine. But we're still at war with the British, so we can't trust you to not stab us in the back or betray us or
Right.
spy on us. So we got this place called Canada. Could you get there now? And so that was part of the thing too. Is look, if you want the British to come back and take back over America, you're not welcome to live here. And that's
Right.
essentially, I think, in that spirit, Trump has said people that want to come here and defy the republic, right? He's going to see them as bad actors, enemy combatants, and that same thing, and say, if you'd like to continue this, you can go back to your country, or we have this place called Canada that you can go to.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah. Of course.
say all the anti-U.S. stuff you want in Canada.
So yeah, now driver, appreciate your subscription, appreciate you showing up. I just want to go back through and look at what some of the people have said so far. Let's see. It isn't great to support radical politics when they benefit you. Count me in too. All right. So yeah, obviously, I think for the most part, everybody is on the same page, right? To be here in America.
I think there was a bad example or an example of somebody who said a U.S. citizen in Washington State was
Maryland.
deported.
Maryland, yeah.
Okay.
Maryland. Somebody in Maryland was deported and went to, we sent him to El Salvador. And now I'm a little bit, after reading the article, I'm confused as to whether or not we can't get him back or won't get him back. Like, it's a little bit on the edge. Like, it seems like maybe something we could do if we pushed hard enough, but it's just like not important enough to I don't know. I don't know exactly the rules, but I will say, like, that gets under my skin a little bit because that's the kind of mistake that really shouldn't happen. And it's not like, okay, just so everybody understands too. Yeah, right. Well, just so everybody understands too, like even without due process, right? Like what people are looking for, these people are still being grabbed by ICE, put in a detention center for a considerable amount of time, researched, and then this thing is executed, right? So it's not like there isn't any due process. There's some. It's just maybe not being in front of a grand jury like people want or something like that. It's not like the same level of due process that a typical citizen would get. And that bothers me. I won't lie. Like, I'm a big Constitution guy, right? And I feel like between the 14th and the 5th Amendment, there's this kind of catch-all, which is supposed to put essentially the same protections on all of the people that ICE would sweep up. Now, I still have to admit, though, there are varying degrees, right? Because there's some people that are so obviously part of like Tren de Aragua or MS-13 or something like that, that, I can't see why you would ever need to go through this whole lengthy process. Like, some of them admit it, like we catch them in the act, that kind of thing. And on the other end of the spectrum, some guys are like, say again?
Are in jails right now,
Right.
or have been arrested for committing crimes or recently convicted. Yeah.
Right. And they're right. Some of them have already been in front of a jury or in front of a magistrate and just haven't gone again to be deported, right? Like they've only gone twice or 18 times in the past 3 months or something like that. And right. But on the other side, like, I don't understand how this happens. They say it was an administrative error. They say it was like he just kind of got swept up in the system or something, which, I mean, it's going to happen if you have a lot of, but, and at this point in time, it's like the worst time for a public error like this to happen, like, because Trump's doing so well with a lot of the other stuff he's doing is going relatively smoothly, and that we're, as much as possible for Trump. And then it's like this big, but I don't know. So now here's my question to you. Exactly how much due process do you think let's say a permanent resident, but not a citizen, should have before being deported?
Well, you're talking about somebody who's a permanent alien, or maybe they have a tourist visa, or a student visa, or a
Yeah.
temporary visa, or
let's say
permanent.
let's say
Permanent.
for the sake of being specific, let's say student visa, uh, uh, presumed to be connected to terrorism, but denies it.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So yeah. So you should have eyewitness or video, witness of acts that are right deemed supportive of declared right legal terrorists, people on the terrorists, and they're actively right. You have videotape recorded evidence or admission from this person that they support something a group that's on the terrorist watch list. Um, with that type, I think that's essentially what should get the attention of um, deportation law enforcement officials. Say, here's
Right.
somebody that we need to look at who is been granted we've a gift, chance to study in America that millions of people want. We should
Right.
let somebody else have that spot because it's actually safer for us. It's more in our interest, and it's not. I don't think it's illegal for the U.S. to act in their interest when it's not just, hey, I'm upset with American policies, and I feel generally that Syria should not be oppressed by America. But if they're talking about specific organizations that
Right.
are on the list that have passed Congress. Congress has approved that list, right?
Right.
Identifying who are. So there's been some due process there. I think that threshold gives it where ICE can execute their authority. They have that authority once they have that evidence.
Hmm.
And I don't know whether it's a preponderance of evidence or beyond reasonable doubt or clear, indisputable that this person is a supporter of um, radical groups. But I think at that point you definitely want to bring that person in and probably revoke his status and have him reapply.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm with you for like 90% of the cases, right? Because some of them are so blatantly obvious. But then on the other hand, you have like these fringe cases where the guy's like swept up because he's just with all of the other dudes that are, that are picked up. He's like he's like the cousin of an MS-13 guy, but not actually in the gang, for
Well,
example. Or
if you're an MS-13 member and you're a U.S. citizen, which can happen, you get imprisoned in America. But right, so he should still be in prison, but not in El Salvador. Is that what
right.
Angela would say?
Yeah, she's saying, well, yeah. So we're discussing whether or not this guy was actually MS-13. So here's my instincts tell me yes, right? Like I think he probably was, but this is that gray area, right? This is where I presume we would need to prove that he is at some point if he denies it. And I mean, I don't know. I guess not. Maybe not. According to the law, I think technically per the letter of the law and the Alien Enemies Act and 8 U.S. Code 1227 and 4C little I1, little I2, and little I3. You get what I'm saying. But anyway, the point
Yeah.
is like all of these, yeah, maybe technically by the letter of the law, he's bootable, but by the spirit of the law, is he? I mean, this is a guy who's claiming, no, I'm not MS-13. He's got legal counsel that says, no, he's not MS-13. And then no evidence, to my knowledge, has been presented that indicates he's MS-13. I don't know. I don't know where the magical line is. This might be that.
They definitely should have evidence more than just I want this guy to be MS-13. So yeah, I would think right. No secret detentions, no secret deportations. So we need to know everybody identified so we can see everybody that's detained so we can review it just like this so we can catch it if there's something that goes beyond. And then right. So and that kind of scrutiny will help minimize errors and try to correct errors. I think that right errors are going to be made, there always will be, but that by them not being secret and them at least using, having to declare why they're deporting this person, then people can dispute that and see if there's a case where it doesn't line up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the other thing too is we could probably just very easily streamline this process, right? Like, couldn't Congress just come in? I mean, I guess maybe not right now because Cory Booker's being crazy and Mike Johnson's like, I'm not going to do anything else for the rest of the week because he lost a single vote. He's like throwing a temper tantrum. But like, I mean, normally Congress could just come in and codify this whole thing and say, all right, because of this, the Alien Enemies Act and da 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 da, we're going to create a special tribunal that will like swiftly process, all these guys that are being deported. Like they will get their day in front of a grand jury, but like if we've got pictures of them on a phone, like sending money to their terrorist cousin and whatever, like then that's it. I'm sorry. But at least they'll have their day in court. I don't know what the magic.
Well, all right. So we're talking about what authority ICE has, right? I like to tell the story of when I came back from traveling to India. I went through a really, really rigorous security search, getting on the plane from India back to London. In London, when we got off the plane, we never left I never left the terminal at Heathrow, but still went through another security check, right? Had my bag scanned. I went through security check, everything like that, another high before I could get on the plane to the U.S.
Very true.
I get back to the U.S. I have $100 in silks and wood figurines I brought for Christmas presents. And I have to stand in this really long 45-minute, at least to an hour long line for customs before I can get to my next flight down here to North Carolina.
Right.
Like, I'm a U.S. citizen. I should have to stand in this line. What happens if I just decide I want to skip this line, right, and say, right, I'm a citizen and walk past ICE? What are they going to do? They're going to tackle me, right? I'm going to end up in handcuffs. They're not going to think, hey, it's chill. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I'm sure there's no problem.
Right. And the other, go ahead. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and we know that that's appropriate, that they should assume bad actors who don't want to go through and be skeptical, and they have an authority to detain people, right? Who, for whatever reason, are violating their visa probation.
Right. And I mean, yeah, and now one of the things we talk about on this channel a lot is there's always like essentially two sides to these dilemmas, right? One is the legal side and one is the moral side. And I admit, I believe that legally, due to all of these like weird laws, including some that are very, very old and some that are specifically for deporting, illegal aliens, I think legally it probably technically fits the letter of the law. Like I think they're probably technically safe. When it goes to the Supreme Court, it's probably going to be affirmed. Like Trump's probably going to win. But that having been said, let's go to the moral side for a moment, because I darn sure wouldn't want like a cousin of mine being swept up in this nonsense, right? Like I darn sure wouldn't want. I'd like to believe that we still have a due process in place for everyone, not just, but by the same token, I think that due process should be better defined, because part of the problem here, I think, is that I think it's a mistake, actually, the 14th Amendment. I think it's a mistake to give non-citizens the exact same protections as citizens. I think they should have close to the same. Like, I think we should still protect life, liberty, and property like we do for citizens. But I don't know about protecting residency status. That's a shaky one for me, because otherwise, what's the difference between being a citizen and not? Like, if you get all the benefits of being a citizen while being a non-citizen, then why would you ever move over and like start paying taxes? It's like, it doesn't make any sense. So I think they should maybe change the wording on the 14th Amendment or something. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? No, it's harder.
They're not going to be changing the amendment, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's just knowing. I think that the administration should send a message, and maybe they're making examples of these people that and they like the press scrutiny, and that's why a lot of people are self-deporting. right?
Right.
Or fewer people are trying to break into this country illegally right now
Right.
because they just sent a message that, hey, you're not welcome here unless you come through a gate, declare yourself, and
Right.
that you come here and act the right way, right? So we need that message to get out. We want people to understand that. And so I think giving them a little bit more due process, I think that's what we're going to come in. They're reacting, courts will get involved, and it'll slow down. But there won't be a need. There won't be as many people to deport, right? This should slow down with fewer people trying to come in illegally. We can go back and have a little more reasonable process. I think right now it is an optical. I think they want people to have this message that if you're coming here to commit crimes, you're not going to be here for long. And right, the Biden
Yeah.
administration was so left wing. The message got out that yeah, you could stay here no matter what. You get money, you get things like that. Just
Right.
by rolling up the welcome mat and saying just a few changes in demeanor, right? Will cut back on that. So I think and then we can deal with the immigrants that come here. We can integrate them. We can find them jobs. We can find them housing, and it won't overtax our system. And then we can have good experiences with these immigrants.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely on board with that. And one other thing that's really important to me that I don't know if it's important to everybody else, but I'm just speak from the heart. It's important to me to have an American culture, right? Like I think it's an important thing to be American. For me, it's extremely important. I'm a very patriotic guy. I served my country with in the military. I think that people that come to America to be a permanent citizen, to be even if they're not going to be a citizen and to be a permanent resident, if they want to live here, I feel like part of the cost of doing that, part of the necessity is to assimilate yourself into American culture, to learn a little bit about the history, to learn the language now that we have a national language, even though kind of always was, the national language, we just didn't say it, but like they should have to be American, right? Like if you come over here and instead you're waving somebody else's flag, then go back to that country and wave that flag all day long. Like I don't care, but when you're here, American flags are what you should be waving. American flags, what you should be, to be, pledging to, because this is your new nation.
So my name Christian. I'm named after my great great grandfather Christian Rasmussen, who immigrated from Denmark of all places, because America was a lot better than Denmark back in the day. And he was clear, even though he and his wife were 100% Danish, they would not speak Danish around their children. They did not teach their children Danish. They wanted them to fully integrate and identify as Americans. It was English only. They taught them American history, right? It wasn't anything about, there was no talk about, how much better Denmark is than America or any other places. They wanted their children to fully embrace that. And
Right.
I think that was the sort of expectation for a long time of immigrants who came here. It's really since the 1970s, maybe 1960s, that there's been this push for immigrants to come here and retain their primary identity as whatever, right? No, I'm actually Moroccan, or I'm actually Lebanese, or whatever,
Right.
rather than saying I'm an American. That was my that was
So
my
my
past.
sound just went down.
Yeah.
Can you still hear me all right?
Yeah, you're fine.
All right. For some reason, it did that thing that it did to me a couple of weeks ago with you. It's like made your sound really really quiet. Probably, I think what happens is somebody calls in while I'm doing this, and then it like shifts the audio over or whatever, which is retarded. But anyway, but I can still hear you at least. Yeah. No. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you want an example for how to come here and be welcome, watch what people from India do. Come here, be educated, work hard, register, and be willing to go home if your residency status ends.
Yeah, right. And Asian Americans basically across the board, like when they come here, they're ready to do their thing. I mean, maybe not Chinese, but most Asian Americans are. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for. You remember Vivek Ramaswamy had that like test? Like I think that's I think that's something that even American citizens should have to pass. Like, because I'm not gonna lie, it kind of bothers me a little bit when I go to like a voting booth and some of these people like don't even know who the first president was. And I'm like, did I ever tell you? Did I tell you my Obama story?
No.
So I went to vote for when Obama was running for his first term. Right, it was a historic event, and Obama, the first time a colored president was going to make it. Right, like a person of color was going to be the president, and so I'm sitting there. I'm at I had just moved, so I'm at the registration booth doing my change of address. And meanwhile, there's a guy sitting next to me, and he's doing his first time voters registration. He's got to be like 18 and 1 day old, like he's a baby, And so he's sitting there. Chick is talking to him at the desk. She's like, so, first, what you want to do is you want to fill out for the presidency and the judges, but then everything else you can fill out just single party. You don't have to, you can just fill in this box right here. And he's like, oh, okay. Obama's a Republican, right? And I'm like, dude, you can copy off my paper. I'm an A student. Because I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you don't even know the party of the person you're voting for, like, I'm not asking for much. I'm just asking for like a bare minimum of understanding. Like, maybe have gone to a civics class in high school once. Like just bare minimum stuff. And that's when you come over from another nation and you want to be part of our nation. That's part of it, right? Like part of it is understanding our history, knowing that we have a colorful past.
All right. So go ahead, finish.
No, yeah, that's it. Like it's just understand that we've got a color. Like every other nation on Earth, we have a mixed past, and embrace it for what it is. The mistakes we made, we learn from. The great things that we're proud about, and then we can move forward. But like if people come over here and they're not like ever learning about the nation, not ever caring about the nation, and then they still are like happier about the nation that they left that wasn't good enough for them to stay, but they're here now. It's like, well, what are you doing here? Like you just I don't know. Just me.
So I think it's also part of our American privilege that people can have the right to be uninterested in politics. Right. Now we pay attention to these things because we see their importance. And some people are infuriated that some people here are low information. But that's part of when you live in a system that's so well designed and gives people rights, whether they're political or not, right? We don't distinguish between like a party member or not. That people can see things, they don't see everything as political. I think that's actually a weakness of the left. They try to see every act, everything we do is a political act. But we can separate things and say this is something that's not political. Or maybe certain politics don't. I can still have a good life or still have good friendships and stuff like that separate from politics. And some people take that farther and then don't pay attention because they don't think it concerns them. They don't want to educate themselves on that. I think that's a bit too far. But, it is sort of a privilege of having a country. Well, you have a country that's in turmoil, civil war all the time. Boy, politics affects you, right? If you, whichever warlord is vying for, affects your ability to eat that day. And we have such a good system, so much wealth here that people can effectively take for granted the system. Now, I don't agree with it morally, but it is something that only when things are going well do you have the luxury of sort of ignoring politics.
Right.
When things are going bad, politics, everybody's aware of politics.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. Yeah, well, and thank God that we do have that luxury, right? One of the things that I heard, I don't remember who it was that said this, but I read some CNN article or something, said the guy said we're already at essentially like a cold civil war in this country between the left and the right. And I don't know if that's accurate, but man, if it is, like, I will say this, like the left keeps on calling what Trump does a constitutional crisis. Like every single act, like even if some things have nothing to do with the Constitution, and yet it's still somehow a constitutional crisis. Some things do have to do with the Constitution, and I happen to agree. But like, for example, this immigration thing, I think is Constitution related, right? Like at least related, right? Like you could make an argument that this is something that they're arguing over the Constitution about. But like some of this stuff is like, Doge going into a department to look at it, and it's like, this is a constitutional crisis. I'm like, no, it's not. Point to the line, the clause, the section, and the article in the Constitution that has anything to do with this. Like, there's nothing about, and don't even get me started on the fact that, like, somehow a district judge from, like, BFE, Alabama, or Wisconsin, wherever, can halt the entire presidency.
Yeah.
How is that fair?
Right. And especially as it comes to the president's enforced with running the executive, and he can run it how he wants, and he has to administer the border. Biden was allowed to administer the border completely open. Trump gets to administer it completely closed. Right. So I think we'll sort that out. Now, let's see if there's any other questions people have, or if they want some more on this topic. I know one of the things I talked about is they're talking about Elon Musk leaving Doge, or I know he was supposed to end his temporary position with the U.S. government in May. Do you think what impact will that have, or is it just a media thing that they can't attack him personally? Oh, Tanya has a question.
Yeah, she's going to fire away. Meanwhile, I'd like to answer your question. Yeah, I think he said he's going to leave Doge when he hits his goal of 1 trillion saved. And he currently assesses himself to be at 130 billion saved. So he's got some time if that's the case.
All right. Well, there was a news report today, and it might not be substantiated, was that he was going to leave this month in April, a little earlier.
Oh, wow.
Originally.
I mean, I wouldn't blame the guy, because he's been doing this as like a charity for us and taking enormous amounts of flack for it. Like, even though there is literally no logical reason on earth to attack a company that he is a part owner of, that is independent of his political aspirations. Like, so let's see what Liquid Gamer says. We go to wars that have absolutely nothing to do with us. It's always happened and will continue. That's very true. I'm with you on that one, Glenn. I'm very much a non-interventionist, and so I get upset a little bit when we get involved in everybody else. So let's see what Tanya says. Tanya said in the beginning that if people come here and complain about America, that they should leave. But what about our freedom of speech? Do you think they deserve that? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I want to be clear.
We're not imprisoning them for what they say. Sure.
Yeah, right. I want to be clear too. Again, what we talked about, like these two factors, legal factor and moral factor. Legally, they're welcome to sit here and whine and be angry at America all day long for the rest of their lives. Now, morally and ethically, I just don't think it makes any sense for them to do that. But they can do it.
Yeah, but when you start recruiting people on the list of terrorist organizations, right? And you're not a citizen, right? So your speech has matter. So we're not imprisoning them for their. But if you actively try to go out with a bullhorn and say assassinate the president, overthrow the government, right? You can be, even as you're a citizen, you can be incarcerated.
Yeah.
Right? And essentially, they said, we don't even have to go that far, but we can just say you're here on at our pleasure,
right?
And you become a house guest who we no longer want.
Yeah.
So they can change that. You have he's subject. Was Mahmoud? We're talking about Khalil.
Mahmoud.
You have to be subject to that. But just for what you say and who you associate with, but supporting terrorist groups and enemy combatant groups is something that, with the laws that are on the books, can hit somebody even if they're U.S. citizen.
Right. Yeah. And moreover, too, I think it bears mentioning. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, the way that our freedoms work, the way that our freedoms in America are structured is we have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of property. People say happiness, but it comes out to property when you legalize it, right? When you put it in legal terms, it's basically the same thing. Right, life, liberty, and pursuit of property, unless exercising those rights would negatively impact the life, liberty, or pursuit of property of another, right? And so when these people that have ties to terrorism in Gaza or elsewhere, they come here, they're more than willing, more than able, to exercise that liberty to speak as they wish until it negatively impacts the life, liberty, or pursuit of property of another. Like if they're calling for, violence, that would be one of those things where it negatively impacts.
Hebrew people, yeah.
Right. And so that goes for everything. Like you can, that's a principle that I can basically apply to any other item that is related. And one of the great things that for those of you who want to know, like kind of how my thought process works is I encourage everybody to get those, like these bedrock principles that you don't even have to, like if something new comes along and you don't know where you land on it, where you don't know what your thought process should be, you can just always go back to your bedrock principles and say, all right, well, how does this apply? And for me, it's algorithmic. I mean, like you can, once you get to know me, you don't even have to ask me what my stance is. Just knowing my principles, you'll be able to tell me what it is, right? It'll be obvious. It'll be easy. So yeah, great question. Anybody else have any other questions that they're interested in? Let's take a look. Let's see. Liquid Gamer says, go Trump, pocket your ego and safely drive the. Yeah, I will say, Trump is a volatile person. That's me being nice, but yeah, I it's no secret for those of you guys who watch this channel for a while, I've never liked Trump as a person. I didn't even really like his governance until this term. Now, this term, when he came in and he implemented Doge, I thought that was maybe the best thing the nation has ever done while I've been alive. Maybe. I mean, and now obviously there's going to be mistakes made by every president. There's going to be great things done by every president. One thing, one like kind of like test, like a litmus test that I give all of the pundits that I speak to on Facebook is to test your bias out there. If you're trying to figure out, where you land on this, you can determine if you're biased or not, if you're too biased to operate based on whether or not you can tell me 3 great things that Trump has done and 3 horrible things that Trump has done. If you can't answer both sides of that, you've got a problem. You're either too glorifying to Trump or you're too negative to Trump. And
you're in the tank, yeah. Otherwise.
Yeah. JC, welcome aboard. I knew you'd like that one.
Spicy takes here, spicy takes. The trade embargo, I think, right, Trump said effective tomorrow, there are going to be at least 10% trades on everything coming from other countries. But he's open to negotiation on that. So I know, I think we're at a point now where let's find out. I'm willing to sort of give him some rope, give him certainly 6 months, maybe a year, to see what happens and see if other countries need the U.S. trade so much that they're willing to have equal access to American markets, and if it can actually bring investment here to the U.S., which we'd love to have some factories here in Eastern North Carolina where the tobacco economy was decimated.
Right.
And now, anywhere east of Raleigh, really their economies are struggling because they used to depend on tobacco. They would love some manufacturing there.
Yeah, so let me speak on Canada for a minute since Liquid Gamer's still on it. Here's something that I find rich, right? This is really interesting, really rich for me is that on the left there's this huge like angst built up about Trump putting tariffs in place that are literally almost identical to the tariffs that Canada already has in place, right?
For us,
yeah, for us, and sometimes not even, right? Like it's only just gotten to that point. His first term, he like tested the waters and didn't even, it still wasn't a very good deal in our favor. And he even admitted that. He's like, I made this deal before, it still wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to make them respect that America should have the advantage in trade because we do so many other things for the world. And we talked about this a little bit last time too, but Canada, like if you and I are friends, right, and you're taking advantage of me, now I realize that psychologically you're going to want to keep taking advantage of me, but if I tell you, no, you have to stop taking advantage of me, that shouldn't piss you off. It shouldn't make you angry.
You're right. Yes.
Like, I mean, now to be fair, Trump says it in the most abrasive way possible, right? He name calls, which is like part of his shtick. He puts people down, he insults them, and I'm not for Trump's rhetoric at all. Like, I've never liked Trump's rhetoric. I've always thought it was at best boring and at worst really, really rude. So, but there's a lot of
He's trying
mitigating
to negotiate.
circumstances.
He's
I
trying
hate
to
to say
negotiate.
this, when you're the most powerful country on earth, when you're the bully in school, like, never mind the fact it's wrong for the bully to bully people, but that having been said, people have to just deal with it, right? Like, that's the whole, and I feel like that's really bad for, like, this combination of Trump being president and being able to bully anybody he wants, and Trump's narcissism is a really bad combination, like, psychologically. But I mean, what are you going to do? I can't stop him. I don't have that power. Neither does Canada. Neither does the UK. Neither does anybody. So, like, I don't understand why they're playing this, like, oh, I'm very upset. Trump is like, just shut up and do what he wants you to do, because you can't stop him. I mean, that's just
It is an appreciation for the U.S. that they got to trot over all the time. So they miss those good old days. But yeah, they should get in line and be fair. Like for one of the things on the tariff, just one note. So Vietnam tariffs every product you want to sell in Vietnam, 95% tariff. Right? So Trump has slapped a tariff. Now anything that you want to buy from Vietnam gets a 45% tariff. So it's about half, 46%. It's like half what their tariff is. So it's still not fully reciprocal. But if people want to get around that, they can move the manufacturing to the U.S., which is ultimately the long game.
We got another super chat.
All right.
Woo! Thank you so much, Tanya. You are a hero. Man, we're rolling. Like, at this rate, we're gonna be able to retire to a tropical island in no time. Like, I'm gonna call up Hawaii and see what they're. No, this is awesome. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And by the way, guys, for those of you out there, please leave a like real quick and a subscribe. Those are free. Those are easy. And just a quick heads up, we've actually added Saturday to our lineup, right? So we're now doing a live every Wednesday and every Saturday. More of us, the better. The common man, mansplaining for the win.
Come get your comments.
I think I saw another question in here.
Yeah, organic black magic. What did she say?
Let's see. Where was it? I saw another question here.
Right above Tanya's.
Okay, yeah. What would be an acceptable reason that immigration continues to be a crisis instead of congressionally corrected, considering the ones with the problems have every branch of government assault? Yeah. Well, yeah. One complaint I have already about this term, and this isn't about Trump so much, is that I don't understand why Congress isn't, like, going behind Trump and codifying every single thing he does. Right? Like, there's really no reason for them not to, with only a few exceptions. Right? So, like, when Trump does something, he puts his decree down, and if we think it's good, like, whatever, no men and women sports or something like that, then Congress should just come right behind and say, yeah, that's a great idea, like, and just bam, and just seal it in and lock it, because otherwise, whoever comes in next, the next president's just gonna, like, bloop, and just reverse everything all in one XO. What's this?
Yeah, Trump compared to Starmer is like. Here's one thing I want to respond to original Black Magic. So, control of immigration and the border in the Constitution is given to the executive branch of the president, right? It's not the responsibility of Congress. Now, Congress has passed laws to set a certain number of legal immigrants. They set that certain number, and it used to be, and in the 60s, Ted Kennedy was very instrumental in making it so the countries that got priority or had an easier time were generally poor South American countries. They had an easier time here becoming, right? And so trying to rebalance, they tried to go back and rebalance this, maybe, and every time they do, even saying something as common sense as, hey, if you're one of our military allies who supported us in war, like one of our NATO allies, you should have an easier time for your citizens to immigrate here and for our citizens to immigrate there.
Right.
But everybody yells racism because most of our allies tend to be our Northern European, because NATO is Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization, right? But these sort of common things, anything that tries to tweak the immigration law has been opposed by the left because they want demographics that come from the South that they think way Democrat or way leftist,
Right.
right? Because as soon as they see a group that comes in like Cubans that tend to vote Republican when they settle here, they're gonna make it very hard for them to immigrate here anymore, right? They're gonna clamp down on that. So what we
Right.
really need is for immigration to not be a political football.
Right.
But right now it is. And that's why Congress isn't codifying things, is because there is identity politics involved. The left does not want white people immigrating here. Even though if somebody came in from Sweden or Denmark, they would be just as likely to vote Democrat or support Democratic policies as
Right.
Republican. But identity wise, they think there's a higher likelihood of somebody coming from a poor South or Central American country will be more likely to vote Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's stupid, but that's why Congress will codify a lot of things.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're right. No, I couldn't agree more. Like, I mean, yeah, it's just like we started in the very beginning saying that this is the great nation. This is the privilege, right? And so if you're going to come to here, we should determine all of the stipulations behind that, like where you come from, how you come in, what you do. Like that's on us now because we have that luxury. Just like
Right.
what's that?
I want to talk about the golden visas when you're done.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, one other thing I was going to say, I was going to remark on Starmer. Oh my God, that dude is a snake. He is a snake. The more I see of him, the more I'm like, ugh, like really, like literally, like makes my nose wrinkle up. I'm like, like, ugh.
Are you
Yeah,
sad you
compared to
named your son Kier?
do what?
Are you sad you named your son Kier?
I can only barely hear you. Got to speak up because I got.
Oh, sorry. I said, are you sad you named your son Kier?
Yeah, definitely not doing that
Yeah,
again.
that name's not picking up. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about the gold visas. The gold visas are an outrageously innovative idea. Like, whoa! Like when I heard about that, I was like, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, "How has nobody come up with this before?" Like it's just brilliant. Like when I saw that, I'm like, "Huh? We can do that?" Like it's like
Do you think the people that pay $5 million to come to America are gonna use that citizenship to stand out in the streets and say America should be violently end? And
right? Yeah, no, nobody's paying $5 million
it's
for that.
definitely people putting money where their mouth is, right?
And right, and like you're talking about, like these people are by definition employers. They're going to bring jobs. They're by definition investors. They're going to put money into the market. They're going to raise the GDP. They're going to this is like all to the good. Even if we get one person, it's like sold. Like it's taking care of itself, right? Like the whole thing is paid for itself. We get one operator. Yeah, I Liquid Gamer. I support equality too. Everything is the same. To me, it doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what your background, your ancestral background is, your history, your race, your creed, your religion. I love everybody. I love everybody. Now, that having been said, I really wish that when it comes to immigration, I really think it should be easy for us to come together left and right. Like it really shouldn't be that hard. There's so many times where the left will come up with a bill and then the right will like knock it down because and then we're talking like for the last 40 years this happened 10 times. One side will come up with a bill and then the other side will knock it down and then the next term they'll come up with like almost the exact same bill, right? Like I'm like, well, what was wrong with the other one? Well, it's like, well, the Republicans were the ones that introduced it. That's what's wrong with it. I'm like, okay, well, this is silly. And that's something that happens in politics far too often, not just with immigration. I'm just like, frustrating. Like so many times somebody will put in a bill and it's like with one earmark, it could pass, but we don't do it. What's the law on what, Richard? Richard says, what's the law? When you're simple-minded, not very stable person, right? Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think Trump is simple-minded, that's for sure. I think he's smart. I think it's a weird kind of smart, though. It's not the kind of smart that I have. It's not the kind of smart that Christian has. It's like this weird, intuitive type of smart. Like, you should read his book. Art of the Deal. You should read his book because it'll give you a lot of insights into who he is. I can't, and some of the stuff
And
I read in
I
his
think
book, I'm like,
upsetting people is part of how he negotiates and part
right,
of how he and blusters. And I think his stand of being he wants to cultivate that he's not afraid to push the nuclear button, right?
right,
That's how you get deterrence. You're like, yeah, I have no problem, right? As a leader, um, if the leader feels like I would really, hate to push this nuclear button, or that's when you're gonna find yourself having to actually do it. But when you look like you're itching to, or you're super eager to, or you have no problems at all, people will respect your deterrence, right? Which is what nuclear weapons are. They should just be deterrents.
right,
And you don't have to do anything. And
right.
so I think that's part of it is to cultivate a stance where you're eager or unafraid to use your military, and then you don't have to, and then we have
Right.
peace.
Tread soft, tread abrasively, but carry a big stick, right? Like,
I guess, yeah.
So what JC says, other countries have thought of it. Yeah, it's been revoked a number of times in a number of countries over concerns about the kinds of people obtaining the visas. And yeah, well, maybe, I mean, I think that's easy enough to put in a
If they
fail safe.
commit crimes here, even if they've got a golden visa, it doesn't mean it's not a get out of jail free card.
Right,
When
they're
they come
not
to
getting a refund.
America, they've got to obey the laws and be good citizens.
Right, yeah.
Well, they'll get American jails. We won't deport them back to their jails. But if they come here and break the law, they're subject to American laws. But I think if they have money to put that up, they'll value their citizenship. They'll come here. They won't need and require American aid right away, government aid or things like that to be drained on the system, and ultimately could have a net benefit, i.e., creating jobs or spreading the wealth.
Right. And it's not like we're not going to do a background check, right? Like that's still part of the game, right? And moreover, I think this is going to be exactly the type of person that will assimilate into the culture of America. They're going to be people that are probably more learned on average, right? More educated on average, so they'll have that kind of American history, like in the bank. They'll be able to speak English. They'll be all these things. If they're an international business person, they've probably got it. It's like a lot of all these like little benefits add up. And again, we're America. We can dictate the manner in which we bring over immigrants. So I mean, I think that's that. You guys have any other questions for us while we're here? Let's see. Take your about it. We have simple. Yeah, I will say one thing that I've heard a lot from the left recently. Speaking of Glenn saying that simple-minded people run the nation, one thing I keep hearing from the left is how unqualified Trump's team is, and I'm like looking at him. I'm like, man, your qualifications are off the chart. Like with very few exceptions. Like even the least qualified people are like Hegseth has a double Ivy League degree, a combat vet, a major. Like how is that not qualified? Like the people that they would challenge, I'm looking at them like, man, this is really an impressive resume. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe somebody can tell me, what the problem is. Yeah, see, JC, you say, come on, man, but like hit me with the detail. Hit me with something that makes them unqualified. Why is Tulsi Gabbard unqualified? She was a DNC superstar. Surely you don't think she's unqualified. Hegseth has more combat experience than the last SecDef.
Yes, DUIs. Hegseth should not be driving. He should have a driver.
Yeah, he should have a driver. Right. I don't need him to drive. I need him to run the military.
Yeah. As far as advising the military as a civilian, advising to overseer of the military, right now I'm willing to give him some time and see how he does, and see if he can bring those Houthi rebels under control.
They've already had a successful military operation, despite the signal chat snafu. Which honestly, I will say this: I think Mike Waltz should resign. I've not been impressed with his interviews since that day. He's owned the mistake. I think he should resign or get fired or whatever. I think he should be out of there. I don't think he can handle this kind of pressure.
Yeah.
But
he should be relieved of command.
Relieved is right. Now that doesn't mean he's not qualified. He was qualified, but he's some people can hack it and some people can't. He made a big mistake, so he should be out of there. But yeah, they've already had a successful engagement. Recruiting numbers are way up. The standards were just raised again, which They, normally you'd think that they would go down if the standards go up, right? Like you'd think it'd be harder, but no, it's the other way around because people want to be in that elite American military while it's elite. They don't want to be part of the military where it's like, well, all you have to do is 10 push-ups. Can you get 10? Come on,
Yeah,
you
Bill
can do
Murray.
it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah.
I think Pete's going to be good for the nation.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. It's too early to tell. It's only been a couple months, but I don't know. I'm seeing good things. What else? What else y'all got for us? This is your chance. This is your chance to tap the brains of very common men who have no education, no experience. Well, Christian's got an education a little bit, but
no, but you want to hear, right? So again, so common sense is we want to be patient on Hegseth. We want to be patient on what the effects will be of reduced illegal immigration, and we want to be patient on tariffs. And I think, but I think that Doge auditing, more information, less corruption, all good things. And so we're going to keep our finger on that button for you. We're going to make sure that common sense is respected.
yes.
And we will report to you on Saturday. Please like and subscribe and watch some of our many other amazing videos.
That's
Put them
right.
on in the background. Go to sleep to them. Do whatever.
Thanks for watching Common Mansplaining. We'll see y'all next. We'll see you on Saturday. Catch us on Saturday. And JC, we'll talk offline. Maybe we'll have you on the show. You can tell us all about how bad Hegseth is.
Sure.
Later, guys.